Hello everybody, welcome to Natty's Home Cooking, and tonight we are making street box tacos. We are going to be adding in some Spanish rice with this. I'm cooking actually ground brisket. So we got that going, and we're going to chop up some tomatoes, and we're going to chop up some onions and jalapenos because we are going to be making the salsa as well tonight. Excuse me. So we're going to go ahead and get this all going here. Go ahead and start grounding up your hamburger or browning up your hamburger, and also start steaming your rice because you're going to need that. You can do your rice over the stove like I do, or you can use your steam rice. But get those several things started right now, and then chop up your vegetables like your jalapeno, tomatoes, and onions. So let's go ahead and get that going. Okay, so now that we got everything chopped up, we're grinding or browning up our hamburger. We're going to add in some of those onions that we chopped up and mix that in here and get those to start sauteing together with the hamburger. And we are eventually going to be adding in our seasonings as well once this hamburger gets a little bit cooked more. Some people like to go ahead and season their stuff right, even when it's raw. I personally like to start seasoning up my stuff whenever it's a little bit cooked. So where mine's pretty much cooked all the way except for little red spots I'm seeing, but I am going to go ahead and start adding in the seasonings. All right, now since we got this all cooking in, we're going to go ahead and start adding our seasonings. I do almost about a fourth cup of chili powder. And then I'm going to be adding in about 2 tablespoons of garlic powder. And then I do add in some chili flakes, which I do add a little bit more. So I did add about a teaspoon of chili flakes. You do not have to add that. That's just for my personal preference because I love the heat when you're making Mexican food. And then also make sure you guys add in the salt and pepper to give it that flavor. And do it, taste as you go, like I've always said, because if you don't taste it, you're not going to know what it tastes like, and you're going to serve it to somebody and there's not going to be any flavor there. So make sure you taste as you go when you're cooking your food. So we're just going to mix this up really, really well because we got all those seasonings added in here with the hamburger and onion. So, and then we're going to be adding in some tomato sauce, and I'm going to do 2 of the 4th cups of tomato sauce to this. All right, and then we're going to mix this up really well as well. And you may have to add a little bit more seasoning when you add that in. But like I said, just always taste as you go. Now we're going to go ahead and get started on the salsa. So I'm going to go ahead and chop up some onions, and we'll chop up the rest of the tomatoes, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so when I'm doing my salsa, what I like to do is I like to take a big can of tomato sauce, and I like to add it in with my onions and tomatoes and jalapenos when I'm mixing because it gives it that liquidy um, blend whenever you're blending it up especially for mine's a bullet, and if I don't have some kind of liquid in there with it, it doesn't blend very well. So I use tomato sauce, and it turns out perfect. It's one of the best sauces that a lot of people love. They actually love it. So we're going to go ahead and blend this up. This is kind of the way I used to do it whenever I sold my salsa. When I worked at the hospital, a lot of people would buy my salsa and loved it. They would make orders for it. But so we're going to go ahead and mix this up really well. You may have to shake it just like I just did there. And then once we get all of our vegetables and everything mixed up in here, we're going to put it in the bowl. I usually, just to let you guys know, I usually broil my tomatoes, but I didn't have enough tomatoes for this episode at this time, so that's why I had to do it this way. But when I'm making my homemade salsa, the best way to make homemade salsa is broiling your tomatoes in the oven and letting them get kind of toasted up on the top. That it tastes so good. It's really, really good. All right, and then so we're just gonna add a little bit more sauce there, tomato sauce, and just keep doing this with your vegetables and mixing, okay, until we get it all to all of our onion and our tomatoes are all completely done. So we're just gonna break this down. And I do add my cilantro, which I grow all my herbs out in the garden. So most of the time I will dehydrate them, or I'll use fresh cilantro. So I do end up using my dry dehydrated cilantro, and it turns out perfect. Okay. Okay, guys, the next step that we're going to be making or doing is adding cumin to our salsa. So I did about 2 teaspoons of salsa. I did a little bit more. Cumin gives it a really good flavor. I used to not add cumin when I lived in New Mexico. I would just do the regular vegetables and go. But now I add the cumin because it does give it a different flavor that is out of this world. I really like it. It's really good. And I also do add in a little bit of sugar. I think I use about a third cup of sugar into this, and maybe it wasn't a third cup, maybe 2 cups or 2 tablespoons of sugar. So you'll add that and you're going to mix it up really well, break it down, and then we'll dump it into the rest of the bowl here where we've already blended up our other vegetables and tomato sauce. And next, we're going to be adding in jalapeno and cilantro. You're also going to want to make sure you add in salt and pepper. And remember, taste as you go with the salt because you can overpower it with the salt. You're also going to be adding in apple cider vinegar. I use about a teaspoon of apple cider vinegar. So you'll want to add that as well. Okay, so now we are going to be adding in some cilantro and garlic powder. I don't know why I did this angle. I don't know why I did it. I shouldn't have done it this camera angle. I hate this camera angle and I messed up. Sorry about that, guys. So add in, this is my dehydrated cilantro, and I think I did about 2 teaspoons of cilantro. And make sure don't overdo too much cilantro because you can make it taste soapy. So you don't want that. And then the garlic powder, I added about 2 teaspoons of garlic powder. And then right now I'm adding in my salt. So we're going to set that to the side for now, and we're going to get our jalapenos and get those blended up as well. Okay, let's chop up these jalapenos and get them blended. Right now I know my counter is bothering me because I hate a messy counter. I will not cook in a messy kitchen. I just won't do it. I always tell my family, if you want something to eat, go do the dishes and clean up the kitchen. Because most of the time they'll just leave dishes in the sink and that bothers me, or stuff on the counter, that bothers me as well. So I have to clean my counter. You'll see me clean a lot on my counters because I hate food on the counter. That's a mess. It just bothers me. It's like, I guess I have an OCD with it. I don't know. So anyway, we're going to go ahead and add in some tomato sauce with our jalapeno. We're just going to blend it up together. And then once we get all this blended, we're just going to go ahead and mix up the salsa all together and let it sit in the refrigerator where we're making our corn taco shells. And once we're done with all that, we'll bring it out and start adding it to our tacos, our box tacos. Okay, now that we got the jalapeno mixture blended up, let's just go ahead and dump it all in there. And we're just going to mix it together. And then once you get it mixed, take a piece of chip or a little spoon and make sure you taste your salsa. Because if it still does not taste right and you need to add a few extra things, add it. Excuse me. I do add a little bit of apple cider vinegar to this to kind of get that extra tang in there after I get it all mixed up together. Excuse me. Oh my goodness, I've been having some sore throat a little bit. Sorry about that, guys. So mix this up really well and then give it a good taste and set it in. If everything tastes fine, go ahead and put it in the refrigerator. I do taste it and I realize that for me, and I know my family, it's still not as hot as it should be. My family likes the heat, so I have to add what I'm going to end up doing. If you don't have jalapenos, any extra jalapenos, just add in some chili flakes here and let it just sit and it will get hotter for you. Okay, and I do add a little bit more salt because I realize it still doesn't have the taste that I'm looking for. So go ahead and mix it all up and then set it into the refrigerator. Okay, so we're going to add a little bit of apple cider vinegar so that it sets in with the salsa while it's in the refrigerator for about, I would say about 20 minutes in the refrigerator. Once you get it all done, you're going to love it. It tastes very, very good. You'll see that different little taste to it. Don't do too much, just do a little bit, like I said, maybe like a teaspoon and a half, and then mix that up really, really well. And also make sure you taste it again one more time before you put it away. All right. Okay, next step, Spanish rice. So I've got my Spanish rice done that was cooking on the stove. It looks perfect. It's ready to go. So we're going to end up getting ready to start this. I do need to get my pan that I've got a little bit of oil in on the stove cooking so that it's nice and hot for these onions. And then what I do is I let the onions sear in the pan with the oil, and then I will dump my rice in with that. And I use 2 cups of rice and 4 cups of water. So, or was it 3 cups of water? I can't remember. But anyway, it'll tell you how many cups of what you need for your rice. So I'm going to go ahead and chop up these onions, get them diced up and put into the pan so they can start searing in the pan for the Spanish rice. Okay, now that we got the onions all chopped up and my grease is nice and hot, we're just going to dump these onions in here, let them start searing, and then once they get all seared up and everything and translucent, I think that's what you say, we're going to go ahead and put the rice in here with them. All right, let's go ahead and dump in that rice. And once you do dump in this rice, make sure that you stir and stir and stir because you don't want the rice to stick to the bottom of this pan and burn. What we're wanting to do is just kind of let it marinate in with the onions and brown up just a little bit. So that's why we're doing that. So just make sure you stir the rice really well. Okay. And then we're going to start adding in our seasonings here in a little bit as well too. Okay, so now we're going to add in our chili powder. I do about a 1/3 cup of chili powder, and if you need more, just add more. And then I do about 2 to 3 teaspoons of cumin, and then about 2 teaspoons and a half of garlic powder. And then also the chili flakes, we're going to add those in as well. And then we're just going to mix this up really good to make sure they're all mixed in there with that rice and the onion. And then what we're going to do next is we're going to be adding in some tomato sauce. So I do about a 1/3 to a 1/4 cup of tomato sauce, and that's all I add. Some people will add in chicken broth. Where I grew up in New Mexico, well, where I lived for about 16 years, they didn't add the chicken broth. They just did the tomato sauce. Now we are going to add in some salt. Make sure you taste as you go with the salt, so don't overdo too much, okay? Okay, now we're just going to deep fry our corn tortillas into the oil and let those get nice and crispy. You do not want these soft. These have to be a hard shell, crispy hard shell. Don't burn them either, but just make sure that they're nice and crispy. Um, be careful not to burn yourself either. I use tongs for my corn tortillas, and I'll show you guys how to do this here in a second. Let me finish up this first one that I got going here. I'm almost done, and then I'm just going to put them in a big bowl. I think I made about 25 corn tortillas altogether, or corn shells altogether, because my boys were over hanging out with us. Okay, so this is how you're going to do it. Super easy. Just get that first side there and then tip it over and do the other side. And it'll get nice and hard, and then you'll have a nice little taco shell. It's super easy to do. Just be careful. Just like I said, don't burn yourself. I have done it many times, but tongs seem to work a little bit better for me, so that's why I do it that way. All right, guys, it is now time for prepping. So we're going to prep our tacos. I did add a little bit of Velveeta cheese into this hamburger. So we're just going to mix this up really well. The reason why I do the Velveeta cheese in it is because it makes it more of a stickier hamburger, and it'll hold better in the taco instead of just falling out everywhere. Well, just like what happened now. But anyway, so we're going to add in a little bit of lettuce on top of these tacos and place them in the box. After we get them placed into the box, we'll add our tomatoes and our cheese on top of it. The salsa I do add in a jar, and I'll just let people, take the salsa out what they want and put it on their own taco. So when you have family and friends over, this is a really cool idea. Whenever you have them over, you can just place the box of tacos on the table and put your jar of tomato sauce on each side and have fun with it. And you guys, thanks again for, watching my videos. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening. If you have any questions, leave your comments down below. I'll try to answer them as best I can. Have a great night.